Almost there. All right. We are live on YouTube.
Awesome. Then we will get started. So I wanted to offer a few opening comments. I usually keep these brief. We actually have a few things that we need to take care of. So please bear with me a little bit. First, I want to thank and compliment everybody that had something to do with putting together the awards night from last month. We don't get a chance to say any of those things because we're all on mute, and I can't even tell who's there in that setting. It's a strange setting, but it was such a meaningful experience to listen to the speeches, how well the folks at MYFS know the people that they're working with, and how special they made that award feel. Scott, I thought everybody involved did an outstanding job. And you have a couple of people with you here, but if you'd pass that on for us, that was really remarkable.
Well, thank you.
Sure. This is our last meeting before we take a 2-month break. If anybody wants to meet over the summer, I'll be happy to meet with you. But other than that, we're planning to take a couple months off. And when we come back, we have been asked to choose one of two formats. We either have to be all in person or we can be hybrid. But we can't be all remote, so that's not an option for us going forward. That, to the best of our knowledge, is a decision the executive committee is going to have to make. We will do so in the next couple of weeks, and we'll communicate that out. I'll share my opinion in a couple of seconds, although I haven't really shared this with too many people. I'm also happy not to share it and just to wait until we meet as a committee. But I do think that if we meet and do it as a hybrid, we do have to then stream that in the same way that we're doing it today. So that would be certainly be an option. And I think there are pros and cons to both options. That said, where I'm at, and I have talked a little bit to Scott about this, is that if things continue in the manner that they're heading now, I would really be encouraging us to be all in and to be in person. That's my own 2 cents. If you feel strongly about it one way or the other, send me an email and or send, copy Scott on it, and you can copy all the executive committee members or any of the executive committee members, and share your thoughts with us. There are wonderful things about it, like Kathleen probably wouldn't be on the meeting right now because she's in a car driving home from work, and it's great to have her in any way that we have her in the meeting. And yet, like the fact that none of you are laughing at any of my jokes, like that hurts. And if you're in person, I know you all would be. So the whole conversation is just so much more dynamic when we're all sitting around a table. And if we have the option, it would be 3-foot spacing. We do have a room set up, and we do have the ability to do this and keep with the guidelines that the state and the town are passing on to us. All right, does anybody have any comments on that before we move on?
I just have a question.
Yes,
since I joined during COVID, where would we meet in person?
So we have been in different locations, but right now we're in the senior center. We've been in a pretty tight conference room, which would absolutely not afford us the spacing. And Scott has put in for and been granted to use the cafeteria. I don't know if I'm calling it the right room, but the big room.
Cafe.
And that would definitely work well for us.
Great.
Yeah.
In the past, we've had to compete for space in that building on the night of our board meeting, and that's now changed. We would, as a town department, have priority use of the cafe on the night of our board meeting. So Austin's assured me of that, and I feel good about that. Grateful to him.
All right. So any other comments on that? Thanks for the comment. I don't know if you saw Beth sent a note and put it in the chat. A couple last items. So there's a former HAND student and a former board member and current elected official, John Michael Parker and Sam Kramer, put together a public service announcement on mental health, and with a lot of help from Madison Youth and Family staff, and some help from some of the town of Madison teachers. And Scott is going to show us that a little later on in the presentation, but I did want to just make you aware of that, and getting the word out about that will be something we'll ask you to do. If you can share the link with people in town, that would be terrific. It doesn't even have to be people in town, although we do at some point advertise Madison Youth and Family Services in that. And the last comment I wanted to make in the opening is just, I can never do justice to the words that Scott had for Jake during the award night, but I do want to add a couple of comments. Jake, it's hard to believe this is your last meeting with us before you head on. And while you've been a board member for 2 years, I've known you for 4 years. I've known you since probably your first day in high school when you walked into my class. And you know, they say that 80% of anything is showing up, and you clearly added the other 20% to everything that you did. We could always count on you for an unfiltered, candid, honest assessment of what was happening at Daniel Hand. And that was something that was super needed, and it's something I hope you never stop doing. You know, you've done everything you can to leave the town of Madison a better place than it was when you came to it. And I think you've succeeded in doing that. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck as you go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Bowler, so much. I appreciate it immensely. And you're right. Both of us, I think.
All right, and don't make yourself scarce. So, you know, we love hearing from former board members, former alum. So keep us in the loop on what's going on.
I've never been one to be quiet, so
I'm gonna agree with that. All right, I'm done with my opening comments, and at this point, I'm going to ask if there are any citizens' comments.
No citizens comments, but Reeby's Reeby is here.
And now nobody knows what that means, but Scott's gonna clue you in on what it means that Reeby's here.
All right, so I have, do you want to bring her into the meeting?
Yep.
You see, oh, hey guys.
How you doing? All right, everybody. So this is Rebecca Wall. She goes by Reeby. She is our incoming student representative, and completed the process. We had done interviews last week, and this was our successful candidate. And Rebecca had asked if it was possible for her to attend tonight, and she can because she's a citizen. So figuring it was a good opportunity for her to kind of at least get a little idea of what we do and what this looks like. Also gives me the opportunity to introduce it to you all. So very, very pleased and proud to introduce Rebecca Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. That's so nice to be here, guys.
So in looking forward to her, the tandem of her and Darian, I think they will continue the work that Jake has done with Darian and our pairings from previous years. I think it's pretty amazing in these last 5 or 6 years to see the work of our student reps has really just increased. The amount of things that they've taken on, the depth in which they've gone on some of the issues. You know, I can remember a long way back, and I think there's some board members here that go pretty long way back as well, where the student report was mostly just around the kind of social things that were happening at the high school, which was good and fine at the time. But I really think that you know, our student reps have stepped up in ways that you know, we all just need to be very grateful and appreciative of, because we all benefit, the town benefits, the students benefit. So welcome, Reeby. And you hang out as long as you want in the meeting.
Sweet, thank you.
You got it. All right, go ahead. We can move on with the rest of the meeting.
Means I should unmute my microphone. You'd think by now I would have this down, but I don't. So we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes from the May 11th meeting. And I joined after the meeting happened. Again, thank you to Pam for covering for me. So I am not going to make a motion or vote on the minutes, but do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th meeting? Lauren, do I have a second? And
I'll
that's
second
Andy. Okay, Rob will second it. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? I don't have a count for you, but it's all in favor, one abstention, and no opposed. All right,
I
so the
think
motion-
I have to abstain too. I don't think I was there that night.
Okay, so Jess is also.
And,
Sorry.
and I also need to abstain. I'm sorry, I wasn't there. It's Kathleen.
All right, so
Thank you.
the motion will still pass, and we'll move on to the treasurer's report with Andrea.
Correspondence first, I think.
Yeah, sorry about that. I rushed you there, Andrea. We're on correspondence, which is going to be Molly, I'm sure.
I actually do have correspondence. We made a donation to for Peg Butler, one of our staff members, when her father passed away, and she sent a note. Thank you very much for the flowers and bush and donation. It was thoughtful of you to send something for now and later. Thank you.
All right, now Andrea, we're ready for the treasurer's report.
Hi, everybody. We have a balance of $160 in the Sunshine Fund. And can we have a motion to approve a total of $850 in donations in memory of Rosine Van Os? Can we have a motion?
So Kristen moved, and a second, I think I saw Jess. Any discussion?
I can just share with people that this is Vivian and Mark Gentile, Madison parents are aware of our services and asked if we'd be willing to be a recipient in honor of Viv's mom. And of course, we said in a very gracious way, thank you and respect to Viv and condolences to the family and the loss of Viv's mom. And really are grateful for the donations made in her memory.
Scott, does that go into a general fund?
Yes. Yep. They've, and I haven't heard back, but, we do ask if donations want to be made for a specific purpose. So we do allow people who donate to kind of name if there's an area, a need or something specific that they want. And if they don't specify, it goes into a general donation account that we have that we use for a lot of different reasons. And grateful to have that.
Any other discussion? I would just record that on behalf of the board, we thank them for their generous donation. And I think at this point we'll vote. All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? All opposed? And any abstentions? So that was unanimous and it carries. And I'm going to turn it over to Scott to get started with our staff presentations.
All right. So thanks, Dave. I don't know how many superlatives I could actually use to tell you how incredibly passionate and wonderful and energetic and creative and hardworking these two are. So I'm speaking of Catherine Barton and Crystal DiPietro. And just to remind you folks, again, if you've been with us for a while, Catherine was hired here under our DFC grant, and we were very lucky to be able to keep her when that grant sunset. And what we did at that time was bring Catherine in. She was our coalition coordinator, the main coordinator, and we brought her in as another assistant director, created a niche set of programs and services that we call community support. And we connected social services to that, which was in part at the time because our previous social services coordinator was retiring, and she was our office manager as well. And it was going to be hard to find another Wendy, quite frankly. And so this was sort of our brilliant way of reorganizing, and actually did work very well to, to sell the idea to the town, but also, a way to make it efficient, affordable, and connecting some things that we thought had to do with community support and drug and alcohol prevention, specifically our May Coalition and social services. As it turns out, as Catherine would tell you, social services is a pretty big job. So as she's trying to run a drug and alcohol coalition, connect with youth, she's also taking phone calls and supporting the efforts of Crystal, who came on a couple of years ago. And I can't imagine anyone trying to replace Wendy. I know looking at that from prior to replacing Wendy, it seemed like an impossible task, but I'd say Crystal's done it in spades. The two of them are just a force to reckon with. So I'll shut up because they need to do their presentation, but just want everyone to know how grateful and how hard these two work. So it's up to I'll leave it to you guys to decide how you want to split this up. Crystal represents social services side of things, and Catherine will talk about the oversight of that piece, as well as, what MAID has been up to. And, oh, by the way, recreational marijuana is about to be passed in the state of Connecticut. So I don't know if any of you might have some questions or thoughts about that. Because that's a short topic, right? Go ahead.
After that, I don't know if we need to talk, Scott. You gave such a good introduction.
I know.
I think we should leave it on a good note. I was gonna say, I like that you threw the word energetic in there, because after staying up so late watching the Senate session yesterday, I do not at all feel energetic, but that's okay. So again, I'm Catherine. I think I know pretty much all of you. This is definitely one of my favorite nights of the whole year, is getting to connect with the board, because I feel like we don't always get to see you guys. So it's nice, other than, being in the award ceremony where we don't get to say very much, but I'm always happy to be here and to update. Everybody who's been a part of the board for a while knows that every other year my presentation is literally just throwing tons of numbers at you. So it was not a survey year, so I don't have a ton of numbers to throw at you and scare you or make anybody feel like everybody is on a downward trend or on an upward trend. So it's kind of nice to not just have numbers. But it's also really interesting, since it's the first time that Crystal and I have gotten to do a presentation together, because again, community support was kind of a new concept, and we went into it the first year. We were still doing separate presentations, and this year, well, we were thrown into a pandemic, which I told Scott that was very tricky of him to create this new position and then just throw a global pandemic at us like it was nothing. But I'm really proud of the work that we've done this year. Crystal's gonna see, we can't not give you numbers, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna give you some numbers about how busy we've been, and I'm gonna let Crystal do that part. But it really, before I throw it over to Crystal, I do want to tell you that I'm so proud of the work that she's done and the amount of work that she's had on her caseload, which she'll talk about. But the fact that she did that without skipping a beat or having anybody not be covered by our services is really remarkable. And I also want to thank Molly for jumping in and helping out with the increase in phone calls too, because I don't know how we would do this without Molly. But really, Crystal has really worked her butt off this year. And it's remarkable. So I'm actually going to turn it right over to her. Then we'll get into more of the, I want to say fun things. They're not all that fun when we talk about legalizing marijuana, but we'll make it fun.
Well, thank you. Now I'm embarrassed. I'm going to run away. But we couldn't help ourselves. So I'm going to share some about Valor as later on as well. But I'll start with social services. And I'm going to read, because otherwise I'll mess it up somehow. Over the past year, since the COVID-19 pandemic started, we saw our caseload grow from 94 households to 176 households, with an increase of about 85%. Aside from our normal programs, rental rebate, energy assistance, camp scholarships, holiday baskets, blizzard of giving, back to school supplies, food gift cards, and general support and case management, we've also spearheaded 2 new programs this year. We piloted a domestic violence fund to assist relocating and finding stable housing as people leave toxic environments, and we've helped 2 families over the past year with that program. We also created a COVID assistance program with the support of End-to-End and Guilford Savings Bank. The fund has received $110,000, of which $104,100 has been given to 81 different households to help with lost wages, financial burdens, and anything else they could have possibly experienced by the pandemic. So as we see the world return to normal, we as a social service department still feel that effects and are feeling the anticipated effects of COVID-19 for a long time to come. We spend a lot of time these days helping people navigate state programmings that are new state programs that are constantly cropping up. And while things are just starting to open up again, we will have to continue to adapt to the ever-growing needs left behind from the ripple of the pandemic. Out of this, there's also been a large number of people accessing our services like never before. We're grateful we've been able to serve our community in such a capacity over the past year. And we look forward to growing as a department as we enter 21-22.
Thank you, Crystal. And again, the fact that, she's handled an 85% increase in her caseload without missing a beat. She might be going crazy sometimes because the phone literally never stops. And it's funny because we can't even sort gift cards for like our blizzard of giving without her phone ringing every 30 seconds. But she handles it really well. So it's commendable for anybody to have an increase like that and to keep it going. So needless to say, social services did take a pretty big focus this year. Aside from that, we tried to keep things going as much as possible while doing things virtually instead of doing things in person, which we're not used to. So one of the big things that we focused on this year was mental health. So we did do a lot of QPR trainings. We did 3 different community ones. We did one more specifically for the Mormon Church, who reached out to us after attending one of our community presentations, because of course they lost one of their young people, Adam, in the fall, and they felt like this is something that their church leadership could really support. I have to say that that was probably my favorite QPR session that we've done to date. They were such a great group. And after that presentation, they came back to us and they started the dialogue of doing something in the fall for all of their teenagers and their parents together. One big QPR session. So we're actually going to be meeting with them next week to kind of brainstorm how that's going to look in the fall, because it looks like it'll be in person. And we're toying with the idea, and hopefully they like the idea of training some of their young people to be a part of that training with us, because everything we do, we like to have youth involved, especially when it's about youth. So we're excited about that. And we've also done QPR trainings for young people in the community. We've done 4 different youth presentations, and we're going to keep going. And one of my favorite things that we've done is we did a QPR session for our Valor students to train them. And we've had Jake and Darian and Katie and others join us in those trainings to offer their voices and to, again, have their input and have it come from their perspective. And especially when we're dealing with young people, having the peer-to-peer is so important. But I think it's really important for adults too, to hear from young people about how important this is and how much mental health impacts their generation. So more to come on that, which is exciting. We've also done a lot with Valor. And Crystal and I went into this year with very big plans. We were really blessed to get Jake and Darian and our group of young people back in February to do that great State of the Town address. And then we were again thrown into a pandemic and we couldn't meet in person for a while, which was sad, but I think we did get a lot accomplished. They created that great PSA about social distancing. They did their Valor Storytime videos. They also Jake co-hosted or led a panel with John Michael Parker about youth mental health and everything that's they're seeing from their point of view. And a good part of our meetings were just supporting each other too, and talking to the students about, what's going on in their worlds, and constantly talking about what we could do. So for the first time since we've been doing youth programming, we're actually going to continue to meet throughout the summer, which is something that we're excited to be able to do. But it'll also help us continue to plan for, upcoming activities, because once we hit the fall, it will be a school survey year. So we have to think about what questions we want in there, how we're going to remind students. And I say remind because we're going to hit them so many times with this message that the school survey is anonymous, and there's nothing that we get back that's even remotely identifying in that, because we want students to feel comfortable honestly answering the questions and truly getting their perspective and their point of view. So when, we're going to continue to talk about other important things like vaping and marijuana. So there's a lot of work for Valor to do over the summer, but I'm actually going to turn it back over to Crystal to talk a little bit about Valor too, as she's the co-advisor in a huge piece of this.
Okay, so I actually asked Catherine if I could talk a little bit about Valor, because this is definitely a passion of mine. As everyone knows, I'm primarily the social services coordinator, but they did promise me when I got hired that I got to work a little bit in prevention. And so I do get to do that. This is really the thing that just keeps me going. So while social services consumes most of my time, it has been every moment spent with the Youth Coalition that has kept me going. Listening to other stories was often heart-wrenching and difficult, but knowing that I would end my day with a Zoom call with our Valor, our newly formed Youth Coalition, has been truly a treat. For as long as I remember, I always felt that if you're going to have youth serving organizations, we should in fact have young people involved in how we proceed. Nothing about us without us. Like we encourage the kids. We had high hopes and much excitement to come before we left for Ireland in March of 2020. Just a few short weeks after that trip, we met with the kids who were so hyped and excited they couldn't wait to start meeting. But as fate would have it, we would not meet again in person until April of 2021. However, despite it all, these young people knew that they were sent to do good work. While we were unable to make a ton of progress towards prevention specifically, we made some. We were able to create a safe space for young people. That was often a venting session for them, and as I like to think, a hype up session for us. We took the time to understand the kids' needs, do special little things we could and talk to them about making change in the world, and do so in an impactful, meaningful, and purposeful way. And as Catherine mentioned, they were able to do an incredible amount of work around mental health, keeping each other safe, and advocating for themselves and their peers, just to name a few things. Sometimes it's not always about the action that results, instead the lesson learned on the journey. This year has been a lot of lessons for us. And as we celebrate our group of Valor students this Thursday and say goodbye to our maiden seniors, it's important to know how much we learned as a group this year. I'd like to think that we learned far more from them than they ever did from us, but I can safely share with you that over the past year and a half, we have built a foundation for what we believe is an exciting future for MAID, Valor, and prevention as a whole. And I'm proud to have been part of these students' lives while they were involved with the coalition. That's all I got. Sorry, I have to read or I won't get it all.
Yeah, I'm not at all okay with losing our seniors this year. Not that it's ever easy, but we have such an extraordinary group of young people that I think gave us so much, personally and professionally. They've touched us in so many ways that it's going to be really hard. So we expect lots of visits when they come back, and we expect lots of group text messaging and to keep us fully aware of all the amazing things that they're doing, because our graduating seniors are going to do some amazing things in the world. And we're just really happy that we're not losing Darian too. And we have some amazing juniors out there. And I believe there's another Snyder that I'm going to try and get to come our way. So that's going to be a big part of the summer, is recruiting and keeping that going, because that youth voice is so important to us.
Yeah, truly.
And I know Scott mentioned this, but last night the Senate did pass the legal, I don't want to call it recreational, the retail marijuana bill. And it should, I've been watching the House session. It's been like in the background of my computer as I'm doing work all day, to the point where it was like 4:45 and I was like, I need to go home. So they haven't called it yet. I anticipate the House will call it tonight. And from what we're hearing, the House has the votes to pass it. So there's a very good chance that we're going to be working as a community to figure out what this is going to look like and what we can do to safeguard our children the best that we can. The bill, they put a lot of work into it, so it's not as bad as it could be. I think they've learned from some other states like Colorado, but it's not as great as it could be either. And we know that they finally put in some potency caps, which we weren't seeing in other states, but they're set really high. So I think that there's still that concern there. And like anything, there's that concern of how it's going to impact our young people, because we know that marijuana is already widely available. So when we make it even more available, what's the trickle down effect going to be? If we're seeing high school students have access to it, are we going to start to see more and more middle school students have access to it, especially now that it'll be legal for anybody over 21? We don't know what the impact's going to be on the black market either, especially in a state where, they're talking about a tax structure, whereas the more potent it is, the higher the tax is going to be on it. So are people just going to turn to the black market? We're also dealing with a world where TikTok is a thing. And a lot of our young people have access to substances on apps like TikTok, Snapchat, and other things. Crystal and I are always trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening with young people, which I have to say is we're getting slightly older, which she would tell me not to say that because we're not getting old. But it's getting a little bit harder because it's evolving so quickly. And, we started digging into the negative side of TikTok, because who doesn't love TikTok? It's fun. They have funny videos. But it was really, really quick for us to find people, everyday people, that would purchase things like vape devices and sell it to anybody under 21, under 18, under whatever age. And I quickly, and Scott has seen the evidence of this, I don't have it with me, but I was able to go on, find somebody to sell me a vape pen. I checked, there was no age verification. So I didn't even have to say that I was over 21. I didn't have to type in a date of birth, nothing, because it's a third-party person. It's just an average young adult. I was able to click off that I wanted it in discreet shipping to hide it from my parents. And 3 days later, I got a box of Cracker Jack with a vape pen in it for $15. So it's not hard. And, once I discovered that, I was like, well, what else is available? And it took maybe 30 seconds for me to find pills, marijuana edibles, plants, you name it, all easily shipped to my house.
Or locally.
Or
That
locally.
you didn't actually order. Can we just be clear?
I didn't order it.
that?
The only thing I ordered was a vape pen because I'm old enough to have that. And it sits in the office. I don't do anything with it.
We do take prevention so seriously that we asked a police officer to purchase it for us, but they also declined. I'm not sure why, though. I mean, how much trouble could they get in? But yeah. But to Catherine's point as well, beyond the third party, we've been working on a vaping presentation for quite some time now. And in the same vein, along with third party, we had my 14-year-old daughter at the time go on to a very well-known vaping bar site and purchase a vape with zero instruction on how to do it. I'll warn you, she's probably, in terms of, keeping up with all the trends, she's probably a year or two even still behind. And she was able to navigate the site with putting in a birthday that was kind of close to mine, what she could remember, and had no problems checking out just with a credit card, taking it from my wallet, taking a picture of it, going to the computer. I followed her with my camera all the way, just so everyone is aware. But the whole process, we were able to get that on camera and just see how easy it is for a young person to access not only now a third party, but a professional website that's meant to verify people's age and stop young people from being able to purchase these things. So it's very prevalent.
It is, and it's scary, and it's So we say that there's like a trifecta for internet sales, but it's basically having your TikTok to advertise, Snapchat to do your communication, and Cash App to do your transactions. So again, we'll see how the legalized marijuana world impacts this. But we know that we have to do a lot of education, and we have to handle the education the right way. You know, we don't want to fall into drugs don't work scare tactics kind of thing, because I think students will see through that very quickly. But we need to talk about the real life consequences and what it really looks like, and remind people that it's still illegal for people under 21, and talk about the brain development, and talk about how it's going to impact mental health. Because one of the most amazing things about this generation that we're working with is they're so in tune to mental health. And while they're experiencing mental health issues at a higher rate than previous generations, they're more open to it and more willing to get help and talk about it and to support other people through it. So I think that that's something we need to continue to look at and to work on. So that's kind of the overview. We have a lot coming up that we need to keep working on. You know, we definitely want to do more in terms of educating people about things like the vaping and how easily accessible these products are through social media apps. We want to get back out there into the general public and bring our, what we say, our bag of tricks, but we have like a backpack presentation of all kinds of, you know, paraphernalia and different devices that definitely grabs a lot of attention. And that's been completely updated as well, because again, things are changing so quickly that now we have vapes that are watches and fidget spinners. We have vapes that look like a key fob for your car keys, because these devices they're not slowing down. And the more and more we're seeing states legalize marijuana and stuff like that, they're going to continue to create these products, because it's all about having things that are discreet and easy to hide. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Good answer.
I do. Catherine, pre-COVID, I know you used to have meetings with parents, and I was one of them, and you taught me a great many things. Will those come back on the calendar and schedule next year? Because it seems like through COVID, things have advanced quite rapidly, and now I feel like a dinosaur.
Definitely. We're definitely going to get back to having a lot more in-person meetings, particularly. And again, we really want to do presentations on like the different devices that are available, paraphernalia, drug trends, vaping, and then of course we're going to continue the QPR sessions as well.
Great.
That was one of the things that Catherine and I felt it was really important during COVID to do, was to work on a set of presentations that we could offer to parents either virtually or hopefully in the upcoming future, and try to stay ahead of the trends and the things that are changing. And so we do have those ready to go if anyone is interested in them. We have a bunch of them.
I'm very interested. Also, in terms of Valor and other clubs, you have obviously also Rising Freshmen coming in. Will there be, I know they couldn't have them this year, but will there be forums where kids can learn about the clubs? You know, that was something that was definitely absent from this year in terms of that sense of community and people being able to join things other than sports. Is there a plan for that as well?
I hope so. And I know that Crystal and I have already started talking about how great it'll be to be able to go to like this cafeteria again, now that things are going back to normal. So there are going to be conversations with the school about getting back in there and seeing what we can do, because we want to continue to recruit.
Yeah, there's typically a club fair that happens, and it didn't happen this year for obvious reasons, but that's one of the opportunities for incoming freshmen to learn about all these different activities. So hopefully we'll run that again early in the fall.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And I think it's, not just for incoming freshmen, but the freshmen.
Right.
Good.
The rising sophomores, right?
Absolutely.
Sophomores, exactly.
They
Yeah, a lot
missed
of
out
us-
on it.
Yeah, we almost have to treat the sophomores like in some
Like
ways they're
freshmen.
freshmen again. Yeah.
We'll talk to any group of kids they let us in front of. So if there's a group that they'll let me talk to, I'm happy to talk to them. We want to get as many kids involved as possible.
David, was it called a
Perfect.
club fair? I have a
Yeah.
meeting coming up where I just want to emphasize
Yeah. Yeah, and
Okay.
I can't remember if it's during orientation in the past, when they do, it is, Sarah's nodding her head, so it must happen during freshman orientation.
Okay, great. I'll
we
make
plan
sure
on
to
going
remind them about the sophomores too.
We're
Yeah,
planning on going to things like back to school night again too, whenever possible. So the more we can go to, we're ready for it. I feel like we've been caged up for like a year and a half. We're ready.
Excited.
this is always a night I look forward to is hearing you guys speak, and it's also one that I end up leaving like terrified. So this information you share with us is incredibly valuable and incredibly important for us all to hear.
I'm incredibly hopeful because I have a senior and a freshman, or soon to be graduating senior and soon to be sophomore. And I cannot tell you what Crystal and Catherine have done for my senior this year. I mean, Valor and all the outreach that they put in, all the effort, the kids feel connected, they feel supported, they feel heard. And there's nothing more as a parent that I could appreciate more than Crystal and Catherine and their efforts towards these kids this year. Especially during COVID, they went above and beyond in every way possible, from my perspective.
I second everything Sarah just said.
Thank you, guys.
Could you give a 2-second top line on Valor's mission? Or it's like if I was trying to pick a club and I was reading the description of what Valor is about.
I'm actually going to put Jake on the spot
That'll
in his
work.
last meeting because, and I'm only doing this because normally I would do it, but I believe so much in you speaking about it. And Jake is actually honestly the reason why we have Valor.
I know. I don't know what it is.
So we tried to pull together youth to talk about the school survey data. And Crystal and I went to the high school and Jake was the only one that showed up. And we kind of charged him with rallying his peers. And before you knew it, we had a whole group of students that were meeting every other week and really getting their heads around the school survey data and what to do with it and how to make a difference. And Jake is not only the one that brought all the peers to the table, he is the one who created the name for Valor. Like that, the name was his idea, and he created the mission statement too with the help of the other students. So I'm gonna have him give it.
They wouldn't let me do the logo though. They said it was too much. But basically what Valor does is it is substance abuse prevention in kind of non-traditional ways. So what it's a focus on is, this whole aspect of prevention, but doing it in a way that's more so empowerment and providing different alternatives for students and just kind of showing them that you can do things without drugs and still feel the same way. Like you can be happy without drugs. You can feel empowered without using drugs. Like you can find a passion and you can find something in you that makes you want to stay sober, and it gives you a drive and a motivation to continue doing things without needing to ever turn to substances. And it's essentially focused on this whole idea of asset building and building another prevention group, similar to peer advocates, and that, it's like the same group of kids kind of with a repeating kind of goal and mission to just kind of be there for each other and support each other while also supporting the community. And it's a lot of focus on, just like what we can do for the community to make them understand that we're there for them and, like we're individuals in the community. And then also just understanding that the community is there for us and understanding the resources that we have and different ways that we can go out in the world and, help other students and help ourselves.
We're teaching people to have the what feeling, Jake?
Passion.
The 11th McNugget feeling?
Yes.
Yeah. So we try to teach the kids. That sounds really crazy when I say it out loud like that. But one of the goals, I think he hit it on the head. But I have to tell this story because I love it so much. When we first started meeting, we talked to the kids about really creating that feeling about life without having drugs or alcohol. And we talked about things that are exciting in life that may seem trivial and silly, but give us that little bit of joy. And one of the things that we came up with was when you order a 10-piece McNugget from McDonald's and you get an 11th McNugget. And so that has very much been a large part of our conversation and harnessing that power of that little bit of happiness that we create ourselves and using it as a catalyst to teach other kids that you can be happy and have these great moments of joy and still be sober and have great passions and do amazing things. And you find it through your life through these tiny little things. So.
And it's almost like a recognition of those little moments too, where it's like, finding the 11th McNugget of the day. Because, once you start to really think about it, you start to recognize those moments of passion, even though they're, minuscule in some cases, it's passion nonetheless. And, just trying to teach kids what passion is and, building that skill for them, building that ability to recognize their passion and pursue it, what better way could we be preparing kids for their future than preparing them by finding the things that they love doing and genuinely feel impassioned and like they're meaningful and like it's hitting so many boxes. Like this group has been phenomenal, and I think this is one of the key cornerstone groups of MYFS from now on. I think we've established a real agent of change group, and I really am so proud of that.
I'm going to steal that McNugget thing. I swear. That's awesome. I love it. So
don't be surprised if you see like McNugget stress balls and stuff all around the school this fall.
Yeah,
I like it.
We're running with it.
I like it. Anything else for Catherine and Crystal? There's mad applause going on. It's just silent. You can't hear it, but we are so appreciative of you guys taking the time out of your day, your incredibly busy days, to come and join us. And it really is a highlight for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us so much time.
Scott, with that, I'm going to turn it over to the students for the student report. But we also want to talk a little bit. I'm going to ask Andrea first to talk about a little delivery that happened today. But so I'm going to mute.
Well, I very happily delivered tokens of our appreciation to Jake this afternoon, and everybody expressed their appreciation and thanks for the wonderful job that he's done and those are all your messages to him in a card. We will miss you. We're so appreciative of the job that you've done.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for this gift. I really do appreciate it. And the kind words in the card, I mean, it really makes me feel like everything was so worth it. And of course, like doing all this stuff has been crazy, and it's definitely been a learning experience. And I think I've grown a lot as a person too, in a lot of different ways. And I had some lessons that, I think will help me for the rest of my life, like not going through the cup, but going around it, and not fighting every battle, and, just finding my voice and finding my passion. I think I really found who I was as a person in this role. And, it makes me excited for Rebe that she gets to start this whole journey right now. And she gets to, find her voice and find her passions and find the things that she can do in the community to make such an incredible difference and build up her peers. And, it has been so cool to work with Lauren, to work with Darian, JMP, Crystal, Catherine, MYFS, all of you guys. And I mean, even you guys on the board, I've really enjoyed spending my time with all of you. I'm asked favors of you guys. You were in attendance when I asked you to be. I got opinions when I needed them. It's been a team effort to get every single thing that we've gotten done. And I recognize that I don't think I would have been able to do any of this without all of your help. And I really do just want to say thank you, because I really sincerely mean it, that it's been incredible.
Well said, and thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
We'll turn it over to you and Darian for your student report. I was going to say final student report, but I don't want to say that.
Okay, so we're going to kind of break it up into two parts. So first, we're going to just kind of talk about what we've been doing the past month, normal student report. And then I'm going to get into just a little bit more of a reflection about the board. And then Darian's going to just talk about his plan for next year and what him and Reby are going to do to kick some butt. And we'll start off with this. So most recently, other than the events, Darian and I and Katie Biner and Ben Sisk and Callie Richard and a couple other people were working with the health department and Scott and I'm pretty sure the administration as well in rewriting some of the health curriculum and giving advice on how we can better it. I don't know how aware you guys are, but there have been multiple concerns about just some of the topics and the ways that things are being addressed, and whether or not they're actually helping or hurting. So our main focus was kind of to just, first correct those things that we needed to, and just let them know what things were really unacceptable to be doing anymore, and that we thought were really more catastrophic than anything else. And they really did take that advice. I think they really recognized the fact that some of these things are in a changing environment. I know the head of the department, I don't know her name, but she was talking about how she kind of like approached the problem with her daughter or her niece. And she said that her niece had the same reaction that we did. And that kind of was a moment for her where she was like, oh, so like maybe it's not just these kids, like maybe it is just something in general. It's a societal generational shift. So it's important for that to happen. And they're definitely going to be working on that over the summer and rewriting it and fixing that. But we also did kind of try to talk about the different ways that we could better other topics, like how we're approaching sexual assault and just the whole focus on that, and how we're going about approaching mental health and just in general, kind of like bodily health and stuff, what things are just triggering people and what things we can do better. And we did offer advice. We said that, we thought it would be more impactful if we brought in survivors and we brought in, a face to the problem and really tried to bring in humanity to it, because we're thinking that one of the main reasons that we're seeing kind of an uptick in the sexual violence and just the overall uneasiness of, the atmosphere is just this whole idea that there's not really a human nature to the issue, because, it is such a scary topic and it is such a big topic that no one really wants to bring it into something that's personal. But we're thinking that if we can put a face behind it and we can bring some humanity into it, maybe we'll be able to make some change there, and maybe we'll be able to get kids to recognize that this is something that has a victim to it. It's not a victimless crime. Other than that, we're kind of, me, my main thing I was focusing on was implementing a system of feedback, trying to get this to be a yearly thing or bi-yearly, so that we're not having to do these every now and then when it's, we need to change this now because kids are getting so impacted that they're needing therapy, something where it's like, we're making the changes as we see them year by year, and we're just reassessing things each time. And, I'd say lastly, the thing that we focused on was just building a kind of building a pathway for all these different topics. So like we talked about consent and how we can build on that through the entirety of the school district. So how we can kind of focus on consent in the elementary schools as an elementary issue where it's, this is consent, this is taking my toy without me saying, okay, this is me saying, don't touch me right now. I don't want to be touched. Like something as basic as that, where we're just building the vocabulary, we're building the understanding at a younger level. And then each year we're building on to it and we're adding more components to it. And we're creating this whole application of like the life skills to it. We really were trying to focus on that and just getting them to understand that we can give kids all these information, we can lecture them and we can tell them all these different things. But if we're not teaching them the skills behind how they can apply these different things and how it actually applies to their lives each day, then the skill is going to be lost and the message is going to be lost. And they really did convey that they understood that and that they were going to be working on that. And I think they understood it too in a different context, because, we do have this example of the R word where, it was something that was reinforced at Brown, and, after that at Polson, it wasn't reinforced anymore. And then we can see at hand that the R word is something that has become more commonly used again. And, like we saw how the progression over time without the reinforcement led to failure again. But we saw the positive decrease in it when we were, at the Brown level and no one was using the word. So we're just really trying to focus on the reinforcement of issues as well. Darian, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I can't say anything else. You covered it all. The one thing that I would really like to just say again is that the teachers really did understand. They made their best effort. They didn't make any excuses. They were all ears, and I'm really excited to check in with them next year and see what they have planned.
Okay, so now I guess we'll reflect on my time on the board. So we started off with the peer advocate room, and from there we built unity, and we got a protest done, and we were presenting to the Board of Selectmen with liaisons and the Board of Ed about issues there. And we built Enlighten, and we built a website, and we built Valor, and we've just done a lot since. And, again, I don't think that I would have done half of these things without this position and just the opportunities that it's given me. I wrote my college essay about the day I got a phone call about being on the board, and just how much it changed my life, and, how impactful that was. And, the whole drive behind this whole thing I was doing with youth liaisons was, I want each kid to feel as empowered as I did in this role. I want each kid to have this ability to go and make change so easily. Because, yeah, you've got kids like Olivia who are really working their ass off, and they're trying to do this change in the community, but they don't have the same connections that I do. Just being on this board has given me unbelievable networking strategies and unbelievable networking in the town. Like, I don't know that many kids that have the access to the first select woman and the state senator and the House Senator. Like, it's been crazy how great, it's created contacts in my life, and just all the different ways that I've been able to utilize that and utilize the skills I've learned on the board. It's been more meaningful to me than I think any of you understand. And I just wish that every kid had that same opportunity. And that was kind of the drive of that whole project. So it was a really great opportunity overall. Working with Lauren taught me a lot about, what I need to do to grow as a person, and the different ways that I can kind of go around in our community and find things that needed to be changed. And my time with Darian really taught me about how to be a mentor, and how to just work with someone else, and how to guide them in the same kind of way that I was guided. And I did talk to Rebe a little bit, and I expressed to her that, I'm always here if she needs help or anything like that, or support, or just another person on a project with her. And I really do hope that this isn't the last time that I'm on a call with you guys, because it has thoroughly been a pleasure.
Well, we hope the same thing, that's for sure. And at the risk of being a broken record, thanks again for everything you've done.
David, may I ask a
Kathleen,
comment, a question? Yes, I want to echo what you said, David, earlier about Jake, and just how communicative and positive you've been, and open. Really an amazing student liaison. And I'm anxious to know what your aspirations are, if you can, and think that far ahead, because we're all going to be anxious to see your star rise, and you to be, a force of change for our society. So what are your thoughts and ideas about that, Jake?
Yeah, sure. So next year I will be going to UConn. Yay.
Yay.
And the gift, you guys, I don't know if you know. Sweatshirt.
Yay.
Thank you guys, by the way. But I will be going to UConn, and I'm going to be in the honors program there, and I'm also in the special program in law. So I'm going to be kind of in a special position to work with the UConn School of Law and just get a lot of like prep for law school, which is really cool. And my major right now is political science, but because of all the credits that I have in high school and all the work I did, and that it's just like, you know, hand and UConn classes kind of work out. I'm actually able to do another degree too. So I'm kind of thinking I'm going to pursue pre-med as well. And I know everyone's probably like, oh, sounds typical. But yeah, I'm kind of like hoping to do pre-med and eventually get to psychiatry and also, you know, political science and law and get to a law degree. So I will be looking for a JD MD program and probably at a UConn school graduate, you know. And yeah, I don't really know what I want to do beyond that, but I know that with a JD MD, I think I could rule the world. So
Yeah, we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching you, and we're very excited about what the future holds. So all the best.
I am still taking applications for cabinet positions. Crystal and Catherine have filled 2 of them already. So just letting everyone know. And Sarah too.
Is that all? That's all you plan
Bravo.
to do, Jake? All
Yeah.
right.
Jake is also leaving out one critical point. Jake is graduating in the top 10 students of Daniel Hand, plus with all these AP credits to be able to basically start as middle second semester sophomore on top of everything else that he's done
Wow.
here at UC is in the football team.
Remarkable.
Well done, Jake.
Thank you.
Darian, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just trying to get to the final part right here. So, new student rep Rebe, very excited to work with her. Over the summer, my plans are really just to gather ideas with Rebe, plan what we want to do for the school year. I'm gonna me and Jacob are planning to meet over the summer to basically pass on everything he's got down to me and Rebe, you know, his big black notebook, whatever he's got going for him. So the plan for next school year, I have a couple of things that I want to really, you know, focus on, one being sexual assault, and I'm going to check in with the health teachers and, you know, see what, you know, they've done there over the summer. And then one thing that Rebe talked about in her interview, which really piqued my interest, which was destigmatizing mental health. And that's another thing I would like to focus on in the school year, and then making sure that everybody's okay going back into school, because I know that, you know, when they first said, okay, everybody can go back all in, they took off the 6 foot or the 6 feet restrictions. I was very overwhelmed, and I'm not that, you know, anxious of a person. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like to be, you know, kept away and in your house for so long, to finally be introduced to a whole new world, it almost seems like, for them. But and finally the student survey, making sure that everybody knows it's anonymous, because I really do want to see, you know, what statistics come out of it, especially coming out of a year that we just came out of. I think that it'll be very important. And I was unaware of the legalization of retail, as you put it, retail marijuana, and I think that that'll be very interesting to follow up on, you know, how exactly you know, tell kids this at a young age, that, hey, this was once completely illegal, now it's legal, you're allowed to use it, and like how it's going to affect the school system, because you already see it all over our school regardless, but now that it's legal, like how much farther is it going to go, you know? I don't know, like I don't know if I'm going to see an 8th grader walking around with a pen in his hand, you know. That would be crazy to me. But I'm really just getting prepared for next school year. Excited to work with Rebe, and just one big thank you to Jake for being the best mentor I could have asked for. He allowed me to just watch him do what he did, and it was not only inspiring, but just all the passion that he put into his work was just amazing. So I just want to thank him. I'm sure I'll see him again and be able to talk to him again, but thank you, Jake.
Thank you, sir.
All right, before I turn it over to Scott, Catherine and Crystal, I was quite sure you'd want to stay for the student report. You are, of course, welcome to stay for every last minute of this meeting, but you're also welcome to turn off anytime you want.
Thank you. We definitely wanted to stay for that part.
Okay,
Thank you so much again.
thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Scott, you're up.
Well, I certainly look good after that introduction, right? I wasn't kidding. And it's certainly a tough act to follow up with our student reps tonight. Again, thank you to them both for a great year, and for Jake for a great 2 years. So I've got a few things, and I probably could have picked 50 things to go over. There's been so much going on here, and so many different areas and things that we do in terms of programming, things that have happened that impact our quest for more space. So I'm going to hit on a few things, and I'm sure I'm going to miss something that if you hear about from other ways, you can always circle back and ask me about them later. I was curious as to what people felt about the awards ceremony, and there'll be an opportunity for the board to share thoughts, but that's, I'm going to be looking for how people maybe might express their thoughts about that. And next year, so this year we combined our award ceremony with what we typically would have done with board enrichment. I'm not, they both sort of serve two different purposes. We combined them because we felt like it was our best way to help the board feel like more in a more practical, realistic way to get more board involvement. When we've done this in the past, our awards night usually happens the month after or 2 months after the board meeting, and it I think probably felt like more of another thing to do at the end of the year. So I'm going to be interested to hear people's thoughts on that ceremony, and we're going to keep doing it for sure. But I also don't want to lose our opportunity that we had when we did our board enrichment night, because that was, I think a lot of us got a lot out of those. I know our staff did, and I've always heard from board members that that's a very valuable time. We do have 2 openings on our staff. Derek had his last day last Friday. Katie will be wrapping up, I think, middle part of next week. We essentially finished the recruitment phase, and we're setting up to do interviews. We got a pretty heavy response to our full-time position. The other opening is a part-time position. That was a little lighter in terms of its response, but we feel like we've got a good handful of people, and we'll be doing a good number of interviews over the course of a couple of days. And we'll hope to have that team back up to full capacity, maybe as soon as mid to late July. It's a little ambitious, but that's our goal. Looking forward to next year, I did talk to the executive committee about things that we could offer to board members in terms of a little bit of swag. So that might be, shirts, hats, things that would express your support for MYFS. The funny thing is when we think about like what we might be able to purchase, whether it's for our staff, like t-shirts or hats and things, it's always with the idea of doing something that's affordable for us, but also something that people would like or would wear. So we did take a little bit of I got a little bit of a sense of things that maybe board members might appreciate. So one practical idea might be more of the notebook binder kind of things with our logo on it that you can use. So something like that, but something that's more durable, and maybe as a binder that people can put notes in or minutes from meetings, and also shopping bags, those reusable that people could just keep in their car and bring in and out of stores and things like that. So those are some of the ideas that we're looking at. Because of the pandemic, there's funds that we had earmarked for certain things that we wound up not spending. So a lot of what we've had to do these last 2 or 3 months in our program budget is looking at where we can be creative and spend funds like, that would have been spent in one thing on, not doing a lot of in-person meetings means we saved a lot of money on program materials and food and things we would have spent money on. We saved a lot of money on staff travel. So that's a little of what we've been up to, at least in that area. Over the summer, I'm going to send out an email to the board, and I will invite anybody who's interested and maybe figure out what might work for a convenient time for people. I would like to have at least 2 focus groups that occur over the summer that involve board members to look at our director's report and the data that we're collecting. I've not forgotten that need, and looking forward to having the time that the summer might afford us to look at that a little more deeply. So I will be asking for volunteers. I wouldn't ask people to feel obligated beyond any undying guilt that you would have to miss such an opportunity. Take that for what it is, but hope that as much support and help as people might be willing to share with us. I want to tell you, so Catherine mentioned about the QPR that we did with the Mormon Church, and that really did stand out to me as well. Like, we've done a number of the QPR trainings. What happened in that one, I think, for me at least, it was so much of what we hoped would happen in other meetings. And sometimes, like when you're doing, it's suicide prevention, if it's question, persuade, refer, it's a pretty heady topic. And we did get a lot of dialogue going in some of the other trainings that we did. But this one, it was much, the dialogue was much richer and deeper. And what they had experienced. And I think also just for the people who they are, reacting to some of the material and bringing things up as parents. So we're really looking forward to coming back with them and developing something that involves adults and youth. And again, like each time that we do this, we learn a little bit more what people respond to, the pieces of information. And so we're really excited to keep pushing on that for suicide prevention. Sadly, it's such an important need, coming off the pandemic, but we were seeing rates of depression and anxiety increasing prior to the pandemic, and certainly the pandemic has not helped. In fact, as we all know, it's made a lot of things worse. On the commercial pot front, we've Catherine and Crystal talked a little bit about that. So my involvement on that front, it's been actually pretty busy to the point of exhaustive last week trying to keep track of it. And not just from our standpoint as Madison Youth and Family Services. So I also serve on the Connecticut Youth Services Association. So we were, a good number of us were in contact with legislators, advocating for really better legislation from a public health standpoint. And I, need to be careful. This is not us pontificating or trying to tell people how they're supposed to feel, really educating people. The public health aspects of this bill were really critical because of a lot of the things I think we've talked about already. And quite frankly, they were a lot lighter in terms of how they were addressed. To have no potency caps on the THC at one point, and then for them to be set at levels that really, as the research would tell you, is not helpful. So a 60% cap on the THC and concentrates it is not a cap that's at all really that helpful. There are concentrates that are now being sold in Massachusetts that are 80, 90%. So good that you might limit those products. But really, if the legislators or this legislation really wanted to address some of the more public health risks that come with this legislation, they'd be capping that differently, much lower, and to have a 30% cap on THC levels and what they call their dry leaf product also is about double of what it should be, again, according to the research. We've, as a state association, and then myself representing Madison Youth and Family Services, we've been very upfront and clear about our concerns. Also, have brought up funding. Prevention efforts are already very severely underfunded across the state. To add this in terms of a challenge for prevention specialists, for school systems, for anybody who cares about youth mental health, it just adds a whole new element to the work that we need to do. And so funding for those efforts. Now, what was interesting in these last couple of days, as this legislation has come through on marijuana, so has the state budget. And we have seen that there is some increased money earmarked for youth service bureaus. We're not exactly sure what that's for, because we've also had to ask for funding for juvenile justice issues. And it's with all the craziness that goes on this time of year with the budget and the legislation going through the way that it is, we're still hoping to get clarity on that. But you all need to know we are very much on the forefront of this issue and trying to advocate as much as we can for the public health. There are aspects to this bill that I think there'll be plenty of adults who support it. As Catherine said, this legislation could be worse. It absolutely could be worse. It's hard to say that it can't be better either. And really a shout out to John Michael Parker, who was on the phone with me at different times last week and asking not just for opinions, but for information. Like, he wanted articles, he wanted statistics, he wanted facts, he wanted things to help him with his own opinion on this. And a shout out to Noreen Kokaruda as well. We've had really good support from our state reps and representing youth service bureaus, representing Madison Youth and Families, and really the Madison community. And John Michael Parker, I'd say last week was really hitting it out of the park and what he was trying to understand and trying to be a part of very important legislation. So our appreciation to him. And if people want more information, keep an eye out for how this goes. I understand the Republicans are going to filibuster at some point tomorrow. So this could not only be interesting to see how it plays out, but it could be some good political theater as well. And if it passes, we got to saddle up. That's all I can tell you. It'll be a new world. And I think two last things. One thing so everybody knows, there's recovery grant money that is being earmarked for community support, or that's one of the areas in which the recovery grant, it's federal money that comes to the state that gets passed on to the towns. I think probably most of you are aware that this is coming our way, and in terms of millions of dollars. Our first selectwoman, Peggy Lyons, has been very clear about wanting as much input from the community as well as department heads on how this money is spent. You need to know that I've made a request to use approximately $8,000 of some of that money to expand the position of one of our school-based clinicians to work more over the summer. And that the purpose of that would be for her to take, we've been running with a waiting list on our clinical services, so it would help take the top off of some of that waiting list, but also we hope and plan to launch a number of support groups that will have more of a special education element to them, social skills. So again, like the fit with giving opportunities for social interaction and working on social skills for kids who've been largely virtual learners this last year certainly fits with what a recovery grant fund would do. Since the money's not here yet, the Board of Selectmen is going to be holding a special meeting just to go over all of these requests as they're coming in from the town department heads. And so they're going to take up likely the ones that are more priority for spending, even though the money's not here yet. And we've got a few other irons in the fire, some other projects and programs that we want to run, and we'll be pitching them over the summer as well, that I don't have time to go into now, but I think you'd all like them. The other interesting thing for you all to hear, so one of the things that Peggy Lyons brought up in terms of wanting the community input to this, she was talking with me a couple of weeks ago about how we might use existing members of boards and commissions, perhaps to create a separate group that might help us gather more information from the public and even help to form some ways of deciding where certain money goes. So this is all really in the idea stage, but part of what I want you to know that I endorsed was the idea of picking from existing boards and commissions for people for residents, people like you all, who've already stepped up, who've already committed to supporting a board and commission in town, and using your experience and your knowledge and your passion in these areas in an effort to help the town decide how to spend some of this money. There could be a scenario where there's a lot of ideas, and I've heard of a few of them, and there are a lot of ideas. They're good ideas. This is a really an exciting time for as crappy as this has all been on the pandemic end, to have opportunities for grant funding to really make a dent or address some things because of the pandemic, and in some cases because we know that this has been a need and it's become worse because of the pandemic. It's a great opportunity. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about that. And last but not least, we'll leave you on a little bit of a good note, I guess. That's the way to put this. There was this video that John Michael Parker had spearheaded, would share with you that he got this idea from one of the panels that he participated on, and I was on that one as well. And so the idea coming up that what we were really trying to do along the lines of destigmatizing mental health issues, but really giving kids permission. Like there was this sense for a lot of students that they were just functioning to function. Don't get me wrong. All of us were faking it to make it through parts of the pandemic, but we really wanted a message. And John Michael Parker, I think, understood this and took the initiative to put together this project and to make a PSA video. The idea using people that perhaps students in the town would recognize and know. So he just tried to draw from people that they might, recognize some of these faces. And we did post this on our Facebook page, but I felt, and I think the executive committee felt, it would be a good place to show it here. So Molly, how are we doing?
Yep, I can share it. So it's from YouTube. So I watched most of the ad because the first part of the video is Scott Cochran himself, and you don't want to miss that because I think the ad. So there may be a couple seconds of an ad. So bear with me, and I'll share.
Thank you. Molly, the volume's not working.
Social distancing, political divisions, distance learning.
Too many hours in front of a computer screen and not nearly enough hours in front of friends.
The last 12 months haven't been easy. And we want you to know that if you're feeling down or anxious, overwhelmed, unhappy, depressed, worried about the future,
or just any version of not okay.
Well, that's okay. It's okay not to be okay.
Really.
Really. It's hard enough being a young person today. Navigating schools, extracurriculars, friends,
Family, relationships,
All while dealing with social media and evolving social norms.
and trying to figure out who you are while still trying to figure out who everyone else is.
And then throw on top of that a global pandemic that's changed our lives in ways we couldn't have imagined.
From the little things like having to wear a mask all the time,
To the big things like losing loved ones, family members, or friends.
it's completely normal to struggle with mental health.
It's okay now. It was okay before COVID-19, and it'll be okay after we're on the other side of all of this.
and there are resources and many people out there to help. So if you're struggling and you just feel like you want to talk about it with someone,
Find and speak with a trusted adult.
maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a nurse, maybe it's your coach.
Whichever way you go, starting the conversation is the most important step. And remember, it's okay not to be okay.
Help is there, ready when you are.
Thanks, Molly. So that's, I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, we posted it, it's on YouTube. And as was suggested earlier, please share it as much as you can. That is one thing definitely as board members that we hope that you do to help not just promote this, but you know, to promote youth and family services and keep the community supporting us. And I'll leave you with just this last thought before we move on in the agenda. Look, I thank all of you, and just I can't. It's hard to express how much I appreciate the support in the last year. I think it was harder for us to connect as a board, as a group of people. And doing it virtually certainly had its drawbacks. Whatever we wind up doing next year, you know, I know we'll do it in the best way we can. But really just thank you to all of you for your ongoing support and the work that you do. And we got to set, I said it before about the marijuana stuff, really it's just in general. There is a ton of work that needs to be done. This is going to be a tough road to get back to whatever the new normal is. And, you know, we've got some good resources here. We've got some good people. I'd tell you, I don't think we have enough. It's a constant decision about what program, how we're going to hit this, how, you know, where do we have staff to move here, getting the youth involved. And we know that they want to be involved and we know that they need to be involved. So got a lot of work to do. And we'll look forward to getting back at this next year. So again, thank you. And we'll move on. I know we're getting a little late here.
We are, but it's all stuff that needs to be said and needs to be covered. This is our long one. Jeremy, with that in mind, would you have a brief update for us?
Yeah, you know, for a police department perspective, we're just gearing up for the summer. We're a little nervous about the summer. We just, you know, we feel like everyone's going to be getting out and about and, you know, shaking the COVID. So I think everyone's, you know, going to want to be partying this summer. So we're definitely, you know, excited that life is getting back to normal, but we're also a little bit nervous of what the summer is going to bring. You know, we've seen the mental health, we've seen suicides, we've seen overdoses over the last few months. So we really seen, you know, what this pandemic has really done, you know, to society as a whole, you know, just the mental health aspect of that. So, you know, it just goes hand in hand where, you know, everyone's, you know, with the vaccine out and, you know, everyone getting back to normal, we're just excited but fearful of what the summer is to bring. There has been some promotions at the department. We promoted a captain and a lieutenant. Captain Doug Harkins, he's been with the department now for several years, but he's retired from the New Haven Police Department. He retired as a lieutenant. And then Sergeant Neil Mulhern, who was in charge of our criminal investigation unit, our detective bureau, he is now a lieutenant in patrol. And I've taken over his spot as the detective bureau, head of the detective bureau. So that's been my new assignment this past month. So we've been adjusting with that. So, you know, we've had moves in our department, but, you know, we're just gearing up for the summer, ready to rock and roll.
Congratulations on your change.
Thanks.
Does that come with a change in status on the board, or will you continue to be liaison?
Nope, I'll still be here.
Awesome. Well, we're lucky to have you, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we're at the chairperson comments. I will go quickly and briefly, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to kind of reflect on the year super quickly. You know, when heck hits the fan, or all heck breaks loose, whatever your favorite saying is, you guys, Scott, are the ones that kind of feel the brunt of it first and kind of foremost. And this has been a heck of a year from the beginning of COVID to where we are today. And I just want to applaud you guys on all that you did for the town this past year. You know, you'd think back that you were talking about Adam earlier, to even believe that that was in this school year is almost impossible to kind of reconcile. Just all that you guys have dealt with. So thank you for all you guys have done. And then to the board, a similar thank you. You know, we all come with different expertise and opinions and insights But I thank you all for everything that you guys have done over the past year. And, I don't think we missed a beat. The discussions weren't as collegial. They weren't discussions, let's face it. They were breaks and little snippets of monologue, but you guys all showed up, and there's so many things that you could have done other than this during this past year's crises that kept coming up. And I thank you all for showing up and taking part and doing the hard work. So thank you. At this point, any open discussion from any of the board members? This would be your opportunity.
Scott, I just had one question about the video, which I
Yeah.
love, and I saw on social media, and my son told me it went out to hand. Did it go to any of the other schools?
Not that I'm aware of, and we're happy to share it. Because it was such a Madison-centered, with the people in it. I'm not sure that many towns would take the video as it is. Hopefully, they take maybe the idea or I'm blank. My head's completely blank at this point. The inspiration.
Yep, absolutely. What about Polson?
I don't know that it's been shared at Polson, and it's part of the problem, because this happened so late in the school year. It really was challenging to get it out more, and we do plan on using that going into next year. So I think there may be opportunities to use it more.
And they have all the kids. They have all the kids' email addresses like they do for hand. So it just might be worth reach out to Catherine Hart or something.
Yep. Good point. Good idea.
And there were a couple of teachers that were middle school teachers. So, a couple of us at the high school reached out to TJ and suggested that we do what we did, which was him send the email blast out. And I think it would probably just take somebody from the middle school staff or Scott to reach out to Catherine.
Middle school still has homeroom, I believe, too, right? So like there would be in a lot of amount of time that would be perfect just to throw that in.
They have homeroom, and they're literally trapped with the cohort still. So, and given this is the last week of school, they're not doing a whole lot. So it's a perfect opportunity to
They definitely have time to fill.
Yeah, to hear about that. It's okay not to be okay, because there's a lot of kids struggling there.
Right.
Scott, do you want me to reach out to Catherine, or do you want to reach out to her?
I can reach out to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, John.
I just wanted to quickly give a shout out, Scott. Again, going back to the recognition night, I think your staff did a really phenomenal job. It was very heartfelt, the way they recognized all the kids in their various roles. Very, very impressive. So great job to you and all the folks working with you on that event.
Thanks, John.
And also a quick shout out while we're congratulating Dave. You've done a great job taking over in a position as a director of this board.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
For your time.
All right, hearing no further comments and having completed all of the board's business on the agenda, our meeting's adjourned. Have a great summer, everybody.
Have a great summer, everybody.
Summer, everyone. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, David.
You too.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, Scott. Thank you, everyone. Take care.